All right, good evening and welcome to everyone in attendance tonight and everyone watching on our live stream. I want to welcome you to our June 3rd meeting of the Yancey County Board of County Commissioners. We're going to start tonight with our invocation, and I'm going to ask Pastor Brian Nance of Sandy Ridge Baptist Church to come forward.
Let us pray. Lord, I just come to you and just thank you tonight for all that you do for us, and just thank you for just the day you've given us today, Lord. And I just pray for all that goes on tonight, Lord. I pray for each individual here. I pray that you'll just be with them, lead and guide and direct them, Lord. I pray that anything that is going over, any decisions made, Lord, let's just remember to put you at the center of it and just look for your guidance in everything we do, Lord. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that, Pastor Nance. All right, at this time I'm going to ask Commissioner Little Reed if she will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Everyone will please stand. Salute the flag, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you for that, Commissioner Little Reed. All righty, so I'm going to read our ethics statement. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before the board? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any undue participation or particular matter involved.
Mr. Chairman, I have a conflict with on the consent agenda, item number B, please.
All right, so we Commissioner Mims has a conflict on the consent with one item under the consent agenda, so I'll ask that we remove. You said item 1B or 3B.
Yes, sir.
So we can remove item 3B, and we'll vote on it separate on the consent agenda. So we, Madam Clerk, we will make that I guess item 3F. And we'll vote on that item separately. All right. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 3F.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioner Mims. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. So now we will. I'll ask for a motion to approve item 3F, which is the property tax refunds.
So moved.
second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioner Little Reed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. That concludes our consent agenda. So moving on to appearances, we will ask Mr. Wendell Small and John Wood to come forward. Oh, shoot. I forgot the public hearing. I'll go back and get it.
Chairman, Board of Commissioners, John Wood and myself are here to present the draft of our comprehensive Parks Recreation Master Plan. We have a short presentation. This is John Wood, our consultant from Benesh. He's been helping us draft our plan that will guide us for the next 10 years.
Thank you, Wendell. Good evening, all. Good to see some of you again who have participated in our public engagement. So as Wendell said, I'm John Wood. I'm a landscape architect, senior project manager with Benesh over in Charlotte, and I've been doing a lot of park and rec work probably most of my career. So chance to work in Anson County and look at the next 10-year vision for your park and recreation department. We often start our planning processes with these several bullets. I'm not going to go through them all. I know they're in your packet already, but we do want to talk about partnerships is a big thing these days in terms of getting parks and recreation out to folks You have potential partners here in the county with the various municipalities. Our main rule was how to get folks easily accessible to parks throughout the county, whether it's the Anson County Park or it's over in Polkton, Peachland, Lylesville, wherever it might be. Really to help Wendell and his department and you as a county determine where you want to be in 10 years. What do you want to offer? What do you want to manage on the Park and Rec side for your residents, for visitors who come in to the county, and how do you communicate all of that to everybody that goes through? So we started out by looking at everything in the county. So we put this map together. We looked at all the schools, because schools can become important partners. Right now you use the Wadesboro Elementary School for pickleball and basketball and some open gym play. You've got the one county park at Little Park, and then you've got 14 others that are considered parks through the various municipalities. We've got the PD National Wildlife Refuge, Blewett Falls Lake falls under that recreation category. You've got Blueways along Rocky River PD as well, and the Carolina Thread Trail coming through. We've got boat launches, and then we have some other private facilities that we noted as well in this map. So Wendell calls it a plan update. It's probably a new plan because your current plan is 25 years old. Back in 2000, you did a plan. It really had, at that time, its infancy, so it was looking at how can you offer to particularly the other municipalities. So in that, there was a CIP that ran, a 6-year CIP at the end of that. Little Park obviously was the big component of that, looking to put on a permanent pool cover to expand the season for there, tot lot, volleyball, a soccer field, walking trails at Little Park, paving the lots. Not a whole lot of that has happened since then. You're also going to look at some property in Ansonville, Burnsville, and Polkton for potential park opportunities. Converting the school property to park and recreation property up in Burnsville. We've sort of done that with the recreation learning center that's up there. We're looking at Marvin, and you were working with Wadesboro on City Pond Park. So not a whole lot on that list really gotten taken care of. So we went out and looked at a lot of these facilities, and at the same time we engaged the public. I know Chairman Cottle came, saw Commissioner Ellerby at the Park and Rec Advisory Board, so good to see some folks that came out. We also did a survey. We ended up doing two community surveys. One was a random stratified survey, which means they picked about 2,500 addresses at random and sent it out. And we do those primarily for the grant side of things, the funding side of things. They like their surveys to be random stratified, as they call them. So we sent those out in December, January. Did not get a big response rate. So we did a second survey, which was an open link survey. So we put it out on the website. Just means we can't really control who's responding to those questions. You could have 5 computers in one household. You could have a soccer group that says, yeah, we better get on and do that. So it can be a little more biased in that. But we combine the information of both, because all of that is good information. So in those surveys, some of the questions that we asked, we found out that obviously Little Park, City Pond Park, and the Wildlife Refuge were the most popular places for folks to visit multiple times during the year. And then when asked what was needed in the county on the random survey, the natural trails were at the very top, indoor fitness and exercise facilities, which you don't have right now, more playgrounds, some kind of an indoor swimming facility, and picnic shelters. And we've seen picnic shelters increase again since the pandemic. Used to be that was pretty far down on the list, but now it's both an economical way for families and friends to get out, but it still goes back to that social distancing, being outside and being in nature. On the open link survey, there was a lot more that related to more indoor facilities. So indoor swimming, still the indoor fitness, a pickleball, and some type of a multi-use gym space. And we looked at programs and activities. So adult fitness and wellness scored well in both of those. Outdoor adventure, more so in the first survey with special events, outdoor music, more aquatic programs. And then on the other one, pickleball, which that should actually say 34%, it tied with the aquatic program. So you're getting more pickleball activity in the county. Pickleball is probably the fastest growing, continues to be the fastest growing sport right now in the United States. And part of our charge, not only to look at the system-wide and the county as a whole, but was also what can we do at Little Park, because it's been a while since it had updates to it. So a lot of folks wanted to see some walking trails paved, expand the walking trail opportunities out there. I mean, you've got 133 acres at Little Park, and not a lot of that's being used right now. Paving some of the parking, adding more shelters out there, adding more pickleball courts. If you've been out there, you have 2 tennis courts that are also striped as pickleball. So the pickleballers, it sometimes offends the tennis court players and vice versa. Some improvements of the athletic field lighting out there, and some additional restrooms came up in the surveys. Because of a lot of the indoor activities that were proposed, we also asked questions about what if you had a recreation center constructed. So if you see the green down there at the bottom that came out of it, that basically more than half of the survey respondents said that they would be more active if they had a recreation center that they could use. Because you're looking at indoor walking, jogging tracks that can occur any day of the year, weather-wise. More facilities for the 50-plus crowd. They're not quite ready for the senior activities, they don't think, but still having more 50-plus appropriate. And then having weight rooms, cardiovascular, fitness equipment, even some type of a leisure pool inside. We also combined that with some community meetings that we held back in early December. We had meetings in Polkton, here in Wadesboro, and out in Lylesville. We did a couple of focus groups where we had folks from the different municipalities and some of the agencies come out and speak with us. We also kicked off the beginning of the year with the new Park and Recreation Advisory Board and met with them. And so out of those various meetings, some of the things that crept up to the top were basically a lot of things we saw in the surveys as well. The indoor aquatics, swimming, and basically indoor facilities, classroom, meeting, event space, more trails, more greenways. The highest priority being some kind of a gym space, multi-purpose fields, and that indoor fitness and equipment. Little Park, folks felt that's where the recreation center should be, somewhere on that property, because it's right now the only park you have as a county, and it's still pretty centered to the county. So that would also allow Park and Rec to possibly even move into a recreation center and free up some space around the pool. That becomes the highest priority from development outside of updating and expanding your playground there. Perhaps more inclusive, more intergenerational equipment. So pulling all that together, meeting with Wendell and his staff, talking with the Park Advisory Board, we've generated a draft list of some proposals and recommendations. And the intent of our plan, is that it's a 10-year vision plan. It's not saying we're going to build all this in 10 years. You may not get to any of it, like the 2000 plan. You may get to a third of it, 10th of it, anything, but it gives you basically a working tool that you can use moving forward in future budget years and as you plan ahead. So under the recommendations, facilities and programming, we have a general topic there of trail connectivity. When the Carolina Thread Trail did their master plan back in 2012, I think it was, Anson County, out of the 15 counties in that network, you're the only county that really focused on blueways. So perhaps it's time to take a look at what we call the inland trail, which basically comes out down 52 from the county line down into Wadesboro. So taking the quarter-mile swath that's in the Carolina Thread Trail master plan and really focusing on where could a trail be along that corridor. And then start to work with Catawba Lands Conservancy and Carolina Thread Trail to perhaps identify some areas that could either get easements or pick up some property to start to make that greenway a reality. At the same time, you've got Little Park that's located along the same route that can be part of that, and expanding trails within that. I'll show you here at the end, we did do a preliminary master plan for Little Park, but the idea would be to take that another step, finalize that, and I've listed many of the elements that I'll show you here at the end as not only expansions but upgrades to that park facility. Looking at designing, planning, phasing some type of a community recreation center. We've one of the things we put in here was you've got a middle school property on the backside of Little Park that may become available in a few years when the new middle school opens. That may be a potential property to look at to retrofit part of that as a rec center, primarily because it's tied back in with Little Park, to give you some of those areas you could connect it easily with a trail or a greenway through the Duke Energy property there and come in the backside. And then we do want to look ahead, seeking some new park development opportunities. The old hospital site could be a potential to plan for more of a, what we call an urban development, sort of a Rockingham Jam location place, where you could do more community events there in the downtown. The farmers market site has some availability on that land to expand on that piece as well. We had a little bit of interest in dog park. You don't have a dog park in the county, and one location would be on the back side of the animal shelter there. And then Wendell's been having some conversations, the idea of putting maybe another canoe kayak launch over on Richardson Creek. You have Plank Road that the county manages on Rocky River. This would feed into Rocky River, get you out to PD, where you have 7 accesses down the PD River. And then it just makes sense that Anson County have to create programming for any facility you develop and expand the programming that you have at Little Park. Obviously, potential increase in pickleball, fitness stations for folks, expanding on a disc golf idea outside of the one that's at CPCC. And look at some opportunities for even senior Olympic events here in Anson County. And we looked at operations. So we talked about partnerships at the beginning, and continuing to develop those partnerships with Wadesboro, with Peachland, Lylesville, Ansonville, Polkton, all those groups to help spread the dollars and the responsibility. Anson County Park and Rec can only do so much with 5 employees, so adding some of that is important. And continuing your partnerships with Catawba Lands Conservancy and the Carolina Thread Trail on the trail end of that. We want to make sure we maintain quality park management operations on the facility, providing green space, trail amenity. Once there's that 15 to 20 minute, we adjust that for a drive for each county resident. The National Park and Recreation Association has a 10-minute guideline, but we adjust that for counties, particularly rural counties like this in here. And we want to maintain or exceed our minimum level of service standards. We've taken a step forward by working with Wendell to get the new Park and Recreation Advisory Board underway and giving them a vision and a set of goals and responsibilities. And now we're even talking a little bit about how would you go beyond the Park and Rec Advisory Board, and talked with like a Friends of Parks Foundation to help go out and get some of that funding and look for some of that land as well. There are a lot of folks that do that around the state. And a big thing that came out both in the survey and in our meetings was just better community outreach. A little better website information, where a lot of people just didn't know what was offered, didn't know where to find it. Getting Wendell out a little bit to talk to some folks. So that's important as you move forward in that. And then just making sure that this plan reads with your other plans, your land use plans, any plans that any of the other communities might do. The Thread Trail may come back out here at some point in the near future and start to update those trail plans in those 15 counties that are now anywhere from 12 to 15 years old around the network. Of course, all this could lead to, to provide that better service leads to budget increases, little CIP information, more maintenance costs, additional staffing, more equipment, insurance. All of that just follows right along with any plan you do. But keeping parks and facilities maintained on a regular basis keeps up a safer environment. You get more park usage. We had folks that commented in our survey about Little Park needing to have better trash cleanup, and we were trying to figure out what they meant, because you go out there, it's pretty clean. So, except for the one picture I sent to Wendell that just happened to have a bottle in the middle of the playground, but we took care of that. So this recommendations map here shows some of those areas. Up in that upper left is the potential boat, the second boat launch for the county to manage. The red line coming down 52 would be the trail corridor to look into. Dog park out there between 8 and 9 there at the animal shelter. Improving here at Little Park, which is the bigger circle in the center, and then as you come back down through Wadesboro, the hospital site and the farmers market site, in there as potential target projects. So I mentioned Little Park. We took a look at that and looked at what could we do out there to help just pull some facilities around, make them a little easier to get to, a little better circulation. So bringing in and I laid it here on the aerial so you can see what's out there now. There's not a whole lot of baseball happening out at Little. Most of that happens at Field of Dreams. So the field down there by Airport Road really gets used as a practice field. So looking at a multi-purpose field that we could program most any sport on. The basketball court that's up in the middle of the upper middle of the park, where we're showing a second, where we're showing the football field, bringing that down just closer to Airport Road, closer into the park for use. Adding some pickleball courts. We're showing 4 pickleball courts next to the tennis courts, and then return the tennis courts to where they're just playing tennis. And we've added a restroom up in that area to service the ball field up there and the tennis court complex. Keeping the soccer where it currently is, within the other existing ball field. In the center of that, you've got the pool. So, but if there was a rec center built, you could move Park and Rec out of there, move it into the rec center, and then repurpose that particular space either as a flex classroom or some rental enclosed picnicking in there. And then playing off of that, an updated playground and a splash pad with picnic shelters around that. So picnic nodes there, adding some picnic nodes over by the pond. We've only got the one shelter now, but you could do some more on that. And then expanding some of the trail network in there, and in the center of that, even adding some paved trails so that you could get some measured loops, so that use it for some people out rehabbing, mom, dad with the stroller. You've got multiple generation of kids out there, so each one can be doing their own thing. And then down along Airport Road, pulling the thread trail in from Airport Road and bringing it into the park and through the park on that. So, next steps moving forward. We'll come back again to get hopefully an adoption or acceptance. We're not asking for that this evening. This was an information session to get your feedback, but ideally to get this body here to adopt a master plan. And as I've mentioned, it doesn't commit you to do everything in that master plan. It's a working document, but getting that adoption further aids you in going after grant funding for any project you might want to undertake. The intent is that the Park and Rec Advisory Board and maybe a future Friends of Parks group would help to bring some projects. This work brings the project to the board to move forward with. The idea is to balance these needs with your budgets over the next 5 to 10 years. Continue to look at research, seek grant funding opportunities to help with the development. And the overall goal is to improve the quality of life and access to quality recreation and green space for everybody here in Anson County or visiting. I mentioned funding sources. There are several of them out there. Parks and Recreation Trust Fund is probably the most popular one that the municipalities use throughout the state of North Carolina. 50-50 match up to $500,000. And Land and Water Conservation Fund is gaining, it used to be that was the prime funding around the country back in the 80s, and then a lot of the funding sources got lost. It's now building back some funds again and is being popular to go after, particularly on parks that have previous LWCF funding, which Little Park does have. They got a couple of grants way back when. You've only submitted for Part F once about 20 some years ago, and it got withdrawn, so no Part F grants have been used yet. But we got Carolina Thread Trail that helps to fund trails. A new one that started last year, the Great Trails State Coalition, has been putting out money for funding of trails in there. Duke Energy comes into play because of Blewett Falls. They do have funding that they do for recreation activities. Kaboom is a playground funding source. All Trails, even AARP now has grants to help with recreation on more on the senior side with activities. So with that said, I will open it up. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If it gets too technical, I might throw it back to Linda.
I will just point out in your last slide you had Kaboom as a partner in a funding source. I don't know if it probably hadn't came to when we met at the Lockhart Taylor Center, but our county or Peachland Potent Elementary School is currently partnering with Kaboom, and they will be adding a playground in the very near future at that elementary location. So that's a very I don't know if a lot of citizens know that, but that is a huge project that's going to happen in this county. It's going to bring a lot of volunteers and funding into our local school system, so that's going to be a very important project that's going to be going on in the Peachland community. Somehow we can reflect that in this plan once you update it, or
Yeah, I mean, it was mentioned as one of the focus groups.
They didn't mention who the grant was from, but they did mention the grant.
Okay, so yeah, it was through Kaboom, a partnership with Kaboom, so very fortunate to get that here in this county. So, any other questions for Mr. Small or Mr. Wood? All right, well, I appreciate your...
We'll be back with the final plan.
Okay, well, I appreciate your work on this window, and Mr. Wood, I appreciate your help and assistance, and very thorough plan, and to look forward to getting it adopted.
We'd like to see it not gather dust.
So, all right, I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to skip back up or back up to item 2, which will be our public hearing. I'm going to ask that we entertain a motion to enter into the public hearing for our budget presentation.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Gatewood, Commissioner Little Reed. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So we are now into a public hearing, so I'll turn it over to the manager.
First off, I'd like to say that if anybody wants to see some work firsthand at Benesh, John Wood, his company's just left, go up to Cabarrus County, go out Highway 49 to Frank Lewis Park. It's a heck of a park, and I would, Wendell and I have talked about it quite often. They have a lot of the same amenities that John Wood mentioned, but that's just for your reference. But Mr. Chairman, I back on a few weeks ago, I passed out a budget workbook, and tonight is just to talk a little bit about it and maybe answer some questions if the commissioners have some, maybe get citizen input as well. But your budget for 25-26 as presented then, the general fund budget would be $43 million plus $43,108,345. Then you also add into that our other budgets, which are like water and sewer, but the total budget was like roughly $59 million, and so that's there. Since that time, as you know, we have been asked by commissioners when we talked about the amount of money that was going to be needed to move from fund balance.
Can you say those two amounts again?
Say again?
Can you say those two amounts? 43,100,000.
The recommended was $59,058,142,000. Then general fund budget was $43,108. And I'll let you know the local government commission did request that the draft budget be submitted to them for their review. The local government commission is sometimes referred to as the LGC. We didn't recommend a tax increase, and so the public services, if you look at it, public services is like PD Electric, Duke Energy, Piedmont Natural Gas, their valuations, and that's something that the public should know, and you should know, is that I think routinely we budget 100% and collect 100% of the taxes that those utilities provide. On the other hand, we could only look at a portion of what we get from the citizens and businesses, because there it's running right around 93-94%, and that's historical. And obviously we try to work out easy payment plans, if you will, for people. This budget really is more or less a maintenance budget, and since this was provided, and we looked at the possibility of get the number right here, of almost $8.4 million to be appropriated from fund balance. We've had some commissioners and our concern as well, so we've gone back into it to do some reductions. And the only place to reduce, other than say staff, would be to reduce capital. The capital that's going to be in your final budget presented discussed in a few weeks will be essentially the truck that's been on order for 3 years. That would be for EMS. Also, we looked at reducing, freezing vacant positions, and so that'll be some decision that you have to make. There were some 12 positions that are vacant, if I remember right, and so that could be another roughly $750,000 that we'll visit. And like I said, we took out a lot of training on those vacant positions, and all told, we could probably come up with about a $1.5 million reduction. And so the actual amount to be appropriated would not be 8.3, but would be 3.3 from fund balance, which is a lot better picture. But we also looked at, as the board had made a commitment to the employees, and this year, as you know, you said we wouldn't do a COLA, but in lieu of a COLA, we'd still do the 401k increase in terms of that match, and also the longevity increase for people that's been here for 3 years plus. So that's kind of a summary. Water and sewer, I guess I should say we're recommending, or I'm recommending, a 12% increase. I factor into that the contract the county has with the town of Wadesboro, and that's a limiting factor in terms of the amount you can go up. So 12% still only going to be $1 and change increase for both water and sewer, and that's on a monthly basis. We did, as we had discussed, present, and that's another item later in the budget, a flex schedule and some remote work, and I know that's what I would recommend when we get to that point under my manager's report, is that we can just, you receive it for information and then come back in 2 weeks on the 17th, and at that point in time discuss it in detail and make whatever decisions you want to make. That would be my recommendation. And of course, you don't really want to adopt a budget tonight. What we would recommend is that you receive this for information, ask any questions. Ms. Martinez Borges is here, our finance director, and she's ready to answer any questions, because I know sometimes the board likes to ask questions from the person who controls the purse strings, not me, and that's fine. So at this time, I would say open it up to the public to ask any questions, make any comments, and then go from there with any further information.
Okay. All right, so we had a sign-up sheet out in the back lobby. There's nobody that signed up to speak at the public hearing, but I will, in case there was confusion, if anybody in the audience would like to take 3 minutes and speak on behalf of the budget, this is only the time to speak on the budget presentation. So if anybody in the audience would like to, I'll address you. Okay, hearing none, turn it back over to the commissioners. Any questions for the manager, Ms. Martinez Borgia?
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
on the open positions, I think you said there were 12. Are there any of those positions that's putting any department in a real bind or causing any performance problems for that department if they're not filled?
Spread across the board. Social services had the most. They had 3. ACS had 1, Animal Shelter 1, EMS 2, Jail was 1, Sheriff was 2, Tax Assessor 1, and the Finance 1. If it gets to the point to where it's affecting operations, we can always go back and readdress it.
Okay, that's kind of what I was wondering.
My question would be for human resources. I think I had heard the possibility of them needing some help there. Is that there any consideration for our HR department and a position that would help them address some of those issues with HR? I know we've had some things that came before us, and for me, I know that HR is a big part of the county operation, because we have about 296 or 90 something employees.
Right, sir. Depending on the comings and goings at any given time, we've got 290 plus employees. And what I'd like to do is come back after you make a decision on some other issues and make a recommendation to you in terms of what we do with an existing position that's not filled right now, in terms of that being a shared person between HR and admin.
Okay.
And that person that's been in that position has been actually working in both, as working to help provide support for HR as well as for admin.
All right. Well, I know that it was prior to us getting here tonight, some things came up pertaining to HR, and I think that HR is a place that we definitely need to have somebody in position to keep attention to certain policies that deals with human resources, and if that is going to be a strain on what we currently have, I preferably would like to see maybe some consideration there for our HR department.
Right. You can give that consideration, and when you adopt the budget, that you can definitely make that decision at that time.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, yes, Chairman. Yes, animal control. I still want to see some work in animal control. I mean, we've struggled with animal control in the county. Our department head of animal control has done exceptionally well, struggling with what she's had to go through with staffing shortages and things like that, and we know that's needed. I'd like to see some consideration in animal control, and I know I have a EMS uniform on right now, but you're talking about the ambulance possibly being cut. Was
Right.
that appropriate?
No, I'm not recommending that the ambulance be cut.
Okay.
That's the capital item left in.
That was left. That's what I was about to ask. That was left in from. Okay, we're good.
Okay. I didn't want to give that impression
Yeah, I'm
because
sorry, and
the board committed to it 3 budgets ago, if you will, and so it's on order, and it's one of those things that the supply chain unfortunately hasn't caught up with operations in America.
Yeah. It's crazy to think 3 years an ambulance was ordered and still not here yet, but
That's true.
that's the supply chain these days. So, but yes, I appreciate the clarification.
Yes, sir.
Sorry about that.
And I'll be one of the first to say that probably every department that the county has is suffering from some type of strain with employees, because more employees are needed. And that's not just HR, it's not just the sheriff's office, DSS. I mean, Ms. Jackson's here, she'd be one of the first to tell you that push comes to shove a lot there in terms of making decisions about deploying people and resources. And it's something I just say we face every day. Mr. Small's here. He has 2 departments, Parks and Rec as well as facilities, and it's just a matter of we need more money.
I've looked through this, and you said maintenance budget, it's conservative, and I appreciate that. I've looked through it, and every page, and it's, especially the summary page when you put it all together, it's conservative, and I think that's where we need to stick around there, being conservative this year especially.
I'm talking with Mrs. Osman. I appreciate you getting that recheck on the budget and trying to skim it down a little bit more. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir, and we'll keep looking. So as the board makes comments either tonight or going forward for the next few weeks, just whatever, the comment about HR, about other ones is definitely appreciated. We don't want to slight anybody.
If you just pass it along, I think the whole board could be in agreement with this and saying we appreciate the department heads at working together and trying to save every penny you can where you can. I mean, ever since I was a kid, a penny saved was a penny earned. So
that's true.
We appreciate the department heads that are working for that.
Right. And Holly and I do the same. That's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's a tight ship. I think we've got some great employees and some great department heads, and they work very well together.
Yes, obviously I would like to see us where we didn't have to pull any money from our fund balance to balance our budget. If we could shave the whole $3.3 million off, I would be tickled. And I think one day we will get there, but not this year.
It's one step at a time, essentially.
Yeah.
Mr. Sussman, is there any change in the property tax rate to support this budget?
No, sir. The tax rate that's in the budget as is in right now, and what we're operating under is 77.7 cents.
I'll just raise a question. This is a very, very tight budget, and I don't know if we can operate the county without filling those vacant positions that we have at the animal shelter, at DSS, and other departments. And we've sort of held hands and said we'll have no new positions because we can't afford them. Is it time for us to consider a really small property tax increase so that we can do the things that we would like to do?
No. That's my vote, no.
And I tell you, another thing along that same line is the fact that we're increasing water and sewer rates, and with the number of elderly people we got. And I agree. I mean, and I'll say this too. I'm not in favor of it, but a tax increase is coming somewhere along the line. But as long as we can put it off, I think that's the thing we need to do, because we're putting a burden, especially on those elderly people that we've got.
But it's going to change next year with the reevaluation.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a big deal there, and we're going to have to be real careful about how we distribute that funding too. What goes where. But we'll have a big opportunity to address our shortfall, and
it all depends on what you do next year after the revaluation takes place, because some folks will do what's called revenue neutral, which means they will reduce the tax rate commensurate with the new tax base, which means that essentially no additional dollars are picked up. If that happens, then you're still in the same shape.
Right. And that's where I was going with that. I don't believe we can do a revenue neutral revaluation just because of the situation we're in. We're gonna look at it real close and figure out what we can do. But I don't feel like it'll be revenue neutral.
It's going to be a very big discussion, I can promise you.
I'm sure it will, but just to give you an idea right now, if I'm not mistaken, Holly can jump up and scream, but I believe if you raise the tax rate 1 penny, it only raises $165,000 in round figures. And so if you remember what I said about those 12 positions, that's $732,292. So you can do the math. You would have to probably raise the taxes not 1 penny, but probably 5 cents to get to that point.
Yep.
Part of the issue is being quick to say no with some things that's going to be presented to this county, because when you say no, you're automatically saying yes to something, right? Or if you say yes, you're saying no to something, right? So unfortunately, we don't have that great of a tax revenue as it pertains to why some of my questions are the way they are when it comes to economic development, because economic development pulls a strain off of your tax base, okay? And so just for a moment of transparency to those that may be watching now, see it later, when you are handling a budget, the question is, where is money going? And in order for money to go, it's got to be coming from somewhere. And we all know that whether it can go, it's got to come. That's my point. And so our question is, as a board here, is we're limited by what's coming, and based upon what's coming, it's not feasible for what's got to go. And at some point, we're going to have to really buckle down on economic development if we do not put this strain on people. That's the bottom line. And so we can avoid it, or we can talk around it, or we can wait till it happens. But the truth be told, and I want the citizens to know prematurely now in 2025 that at some point, if we do not capitalize on economic development, in order for your county to maintain a adequate budget, you're going to have to pay more taxes. I mean, eventually. I mean, because it's just because we're pulling from the general fund, and if my car tears up, in order to get it rolling, it's going to cost some money. in any business, if anything is out of order, out of line, there's a cost. So it's the same concept with government, and just to really pick it back off of Commissioner Gatewood, at some point you kind of have to, and it's really a hard decision to make, because I go along with Commissioner Woodburn. We think about the elderly and the percentile of those that may fall under a certain income, and which is why we may not even qualify for certain economic development ventures. However, you've got to get it from somewhere, and so that's a difficult thing.
That's on that note. I think some of the board members that's been here for a few years knows that when I recommended a 7% water and sewer rate increase a couple of years ago, it's because I had found out at that time that we were only eligible for about grant money from the state or other entities. They look at what your revenue stream is, and so we were only eligible for about 25% of the grants that we could actually apply for. Well, essentially what that means is if there's a $100,000 grant, we couldn't go for the whole 100,000. We could go for only 25,000,
and that's not a good thing. And our water and our sewer, especially our water, is a free enterprise for our county, right? So in order for us to have adequate water, and again, this is for transparency to those that are listening, may see this later, or you're listening now. You cannot have an adequate flow of water if your water filtration system is in need of dire improvement. Again, if you have a vehicle, it is inoperable. The only way to get it operable is to either spend some money to fix that one or spend some money to buy another one. And the only way that we're going to maintain, money has to come from somewhere. The 12% increase proposed to us by our county manager is not because we're just trying to find a way to make money off the citizens. This money has to go somewhere, back into our water filtration system. So water rates, if I'm correct, I just got here a few months ago, they had not gone up in some time.
Correct.
Yeah. So when water started going up, we're really trying to catch up so that we can be able to operate and have the necessities of life. Right? So, an increase of water rate, we've got to consider elderly people, we've got to consider so many people, but the main thing, we got to consider the fact of what it costs companies around here, that if they don't have water, I know one company, if they have no water, they lose about $30,000 a day. They are part of our tax revenue. If the water system goes out and we don't have any water, that's a big deal. So for the sake of transparency to the people, I want you all to understand that certain things are going to have to happen at some point, but it is for the improvement and for the betterment of our county in general.
Let me be clear. I'm not advocating for a property tax increase. I understand the limitations that we have in this county, but we're leaving a lot of money on the table with our property tax collection rate. An awful lot of money. So I'd like to hear from the county manager, how are we progressing in increasing the property tax collection rate?
I think the rate hasn't really increased that much. Now, what has happened that's helped us out, I think, some, is that, as we've talked about in the past, there has been very little, if any, attempt to go after those delinquent taxes. But I know in the last year, at this board's direction, our tax administrator has made it a point to go after, and that's using everything that's available, garnishments, bank attachments, and we have sent out pre-foreclosure letters which have stimulated people to come in and work out a payment plan. You don't get the entire amount at one time, but it's like making car payments, to use Commissioner Ellerby's reference to fixing it. If you don't have a car that's operable and you go buy a new one, then you're either going to pay cash or you're going to make payments. And so that's what we've been working with people to make it easier for them. But that hadn't been done in a long time. And I know at one time I was told there was something on the order, and we probably are not too far off that bubble, $4 million that was in outstanding taxes. And if we were able to get 100%, then that budget number and the $700 and some thousand dollars needed for those 12 employees wouldn't be a problem.
And we wouldn't be pulling $3 million from, is that right, the general fund?
That's correct.
That's $1 million more than what we have to pull from general fund. And so again, for transparency to the people, right? Your tax rate, your collection rate means when you pay your taxes on time, right? So if the majority of people are not paying their taxes on time, it affects our budget.
That's correct.
Yep.
Right. And this is for transparency. If we have more people paying taxes when taxes are due, then we, those of you who have elected, can make decisions with a larger budget. We cannot count or account for roughly $4 million right now because taxes have not been paid. Okay, so if we can get people to come in and pay these taxes, if we get 50% of whatever that percentage is, that's an additional $2 million. Okay, and so a lot of these things that we are trying to figure out a way to get, we'll have. And so again, when we say no to something, we're saying yes to something else. And I just want to make sure that we, and when I say we, it's us as a county, have that full comprehension, because we're talking about numbers that relate to us all. And if we want to be able to hire those 3 employees for DSS, or the additional, I don't know, I think it was 2 or maybe in the sheriff department,
Person for HR.
A person for HR is there. You know, so it's basically up to the general population, because these decisions are being made based upon what we as a people and those that have property taxes are willing to pay.
That's true.
And what is the property tax collection rate that the budget is based on, Mr. Sussman?
I think it's like roughly 93%. So there's, going back to that, 7% is left on the table.
Yeah. And the state average, I believe, is 98%.
The average in the state is between, I think it's between 98 and 98.5.
Yeah.
Or 98.5, I should say.
Yeah. So theoretically, we're losing 5%, unless we were to be better than the state average. If we could just get even with the state average, we're losing 5% of our tax collection.
Right.
That's why I will not vote to raise taxes until we can collect that 5%. Once we collect from everybody and we can't make ends meet, then we can look at raising taxes. But until then, everybody's got to pay their share and see how far we can go with that.
There you go.
So.
Yeah, but we're letting some people slide.
Oh, I agree. We should not be, and I have instructed the tax administrator we better not be anymore. Now, I mean, that was the whole peer review audit that we had, how to improve our tax collection rate, and I hope that he took notice to that and is improving that.
I'll see if I can have Larry here, even though the tax administrator, as you know, works for the commissioners, not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll see if he's available to come at your next meeting on the 17th. And that way, when you consider adopting the budget, you can also get some up-to-date information, if that be your pleasure.
As I hate to say it, along that same lines, I don't know that our collection rate has increased since we did that peer review. We've been here, 93, 94% since ever.
Yeah, it's essentially been stagnant, I guess I should say.
But that 93% won't register until technically January the 6th. Yeah. In other words, to your point, Mr. Ellerby, if every citizen came in the door and paid their taxes on January the 7th, we have a 0% collection rate according to the LGC.
All right.
Because it's paid late. So to your reference, we got to give it a year to see if the collection rate has increased. Now we can go after this back to the $4 million. Yes, we can collect that, but we won't know if it's improved until January the 5th. Either
well, it's not calculated in the budget.
Yeah.
It's not calculated in the budget, which means, as I said, on time. It's a deadline. Yeah.
You're absolutely correct, because we can't budget any more than
what's collected.
That was collected last year.
Right.
Yes.
But that is one aspect of it. Again, that's why there has to be a concern for economic development. If we're not developing economically, you've got to find this money somewhere. Businesses help in these situations, you know.
And it's safe to say, I haven't run a percentage, I've done it in other areas before, but it's safe to say that the biggest percentage of your tax base here in Hanson County is comprised of residential properties, not business. Right. Yep. And so that's where the burden lies with the citizens.
The burden is on the people at this point, yeah. And that's why economic development is important to me, because you got to develop economically to pull some of the burden off of the people. And again, that's just so that they understand that and know.
All right, any other questions or comments on the budget for the manager or the finance director?
Just one additional thought, and that is, if we're going to freeze vacant positions, we need to freeze all vacant positions. No exceptions would be my recommendation. Also, if we're not going to add any new positions, then we need to hold the line and not add any new positions, because once you start making exceptions, there's no end to it.
I would agree with that.
Thank you.
And on that line, then, if you just add to that, if I may, is the effective date of the freeze. If that makes sense.
Are you asking what is the effective date?
Yeah, once you make that decision to freeze positions, is what the effective date is. Is it immediately upon that decision, or is it 2 weeks later, a month later, whatever?
Yes, sir.
I think the only slight rebuttal I have to that is that you have to consider the efficiency of maybe some of those vacancies. Like, where one department may need one person, but this one person can be vital to the operations, as he was saying earlier. You kind of, before you just put a freeze, you kind of want to look in to see, how useful is these particular positions. Sheriff office may need some positions that are a very intricate part of their operations, and we put a freeze on this without considering that. They can be left without certain officers, because right now I know that they're helping out town of Waysboro, from what I understand. I mean, so I know that could be kind of a touchy subject, but
we are again helping out the town of Waysboro.
Yeah, so I mean,
2 weeks, 3 weeks, somewhere in that range. But
right.
We are currently at this minute.
Yeah, this moment
helping the town of Waysboro. Our chief deputy's not here.
So that's what I'm saying. So
yes.
when we do the freeze, I think we still should consider, what positions could potentially be useful.
What if the position was already in the budget?
Say again now.
What if the position was already in the budget?
The positions that I recommended cutting out are in the budget as it's looked. That's what's part of that big transfer that we were asked to take a look and see if we could reduce it. And so the only way to reduce it, and it sounds trite, but it's your biggest expense is people, because the county provides a service. Doesn't matter whether it's tax collections, whether it's DSS, Parks and Rec, or all the rest of them. But your biggest expense, and it's going to be, if you have to build a new water treatment plant, that's going to be a big expense, because a brand new one's going to cost $300 million plus. And I'm not kidding when I say $300 million.
And I think we need one. I wish we had the money.
Well, I think we could address the starting date of a freeze if that's the route we go once we adopt the budget. In other words, that's the key, is adopting the budget and then moving forward from there.
That is correct, yes.
Mrs. Sossman, you mentioned that you had submitted the proposed budget to the local government commission. Have we received any feedback from them as of yet?
Ms. Holly is still shaking her head no. I asked her that question 2 days ago, and we have not.
All right.
And,
thank you.
Yes, sir.
We're working on year 7 since the revaluation. is there any thought or consideration to moving to a 4-year revaluation for Anson County?
Absolutely, I think we should.
Because we're working the times in the past 8 years, anybody can go out there and look, and everything has gone up. And to be honest, revaluation is going to raise values out there in the county. It's going to be, I don't know the better way to say it, sticker shock to some properties, mine included, everybody's. I feel one or two things can be positive from a revaluation switching from 8 years to 4 years. You can budget more accordingly with a revaluation every 4 years, and a reevaluation every 4 years will help the citizens also in having that value reevaluated every 4 years for price value. I mean, it's
And just a piece of information, the reason the county does it every 8.5 is because that's required by state law, but you have to do it at least every 8. You can do it every 4, which from an economic standpoint makes perfect sense.
Yes, we are doing the bare minimum by doing 8 years.
I think a 4-year revaluation, moving to that would help tremendously.
And it protects the citizens as well, because just imagine 2007, you hit a reval and prices were skyrocketing, and 2008 hit and your property value plummeted. But if you're on an 8-year cycle, you're stuck with that for 7 more years. You're stuck with that high price value property that's not realistic. So it does benefit the citizens to do a 4-year cycle.
And I think we've done the gamut of the ranges. I mean, we were at every 4 years back years. I was trying to get it clear in my mind why the change. We went from 4, we went from 4 to 6, and then we went from 6 to 8, and which we've been at 8 for quite a while now. But we have done that before, and you're right. It makes sense to do every 4 years. So I guess we just need to transition back to that.
I know there's an additional cost. Obviously, if you do a service once every 8 years versus once every 4, it's more expensive. I think it is more work on our tax department to do a revow every 4 years, but I think it would be necessary and beneficial to both parties, both the county and the citizen or homeowner.
Well, I think it would be, because what have we heard recently from Union County is that their reval, which is this year's, their properties are going up on an average of 60 some odd percent.
Yeah, there's a 60% increase, and they are every 4 years, unless there's a market trigger that could be sooner.
I talked to a real estate expert this past weekend, and his word is that in Mecklenburg County, I know that's Charlotte, but he says in the last 2 years, their average property value increase is 54%.
And I mean, that's common for Mecklenburg and Union counties, just because of where they are.
Yeah. And we're going to see an increase like that in this county. I don't know that it'll be 60%, but it's going to be a substantial increase.
It's gonna be healthy,
I think it'll definitely be more than 25%.
Sure. But I'll still.
I think another thing too, when it comes to doing revals, especially when you get on a shorter cycle, there's a couple of ways to do it. You do what we call a full evaluation. I think there's another terminology for it. But that's when the people that come in and does it, they actually physical visits to the property and do just an inspection to see what's actually there versus what's on the tax rolls. But then in the other one, and it doesn't cost as much to do that, and I guess we can trade back and forth, is what they call a windshield evaluation. They come and just glance at it, and then they say, okay, there's no major change. Like if your property shows a house and nothing else, and they go look and that's all they see is a house, they're good. But if it says a house and they see a house in a great big storage building, they say, okay, this one we got to look close at. So,
yeah, you would have to alternate or rotate the level of
way it's done, right.
Evaluation. Yes. So,
and I know what you're talking about is buildings that are, and additions that are made without getting a building permit.
Right.
Citizens should realize if they do that and then they have a physical problem like a hurricane or a fire or something, if that addition was permitted, the insurance company doesn't have to reimburse the citizen for it.
Right.
All right. Any other discussion on the budget proposal?
Well, I'd just like to say to Ms. Hawley and Mr. Sussman, thank you very much for bringing forward a bare bones budget. Hopefully it's affordable for the county.
Yes, I appreciate it. And if you need a pencil sharpener, let me know. Any other discussion on budget? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to exit the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gatewood, second by Commissioner Woodburn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so now we're going to move into our public addresses to the board. So I'm going to read our public address statement. There shall be a time set aside at each regular meeting of the board for public comment. Each citizen who wishes to speak during this time must sign up on a sign-up sheet prior to the start of the meeting. Each citizen shall be allowed 3 minutes for their presentation. All citizens are expected to follow proper decorum and shall not use profanity nor defamatory speech. The public is expected to remain seated except when leaving the room. Only presenters listed on the agenda or recognized by the chairman will be called to the podium to address the board. Commissioners are expected not to comment on matters brought to the board at this time, but to delay action or comment until staff has had an opportunity to research the subject matter and to report necessary and relevant information to all members of the board. So this time we have one signed up. I believe this is Tommy and Betty Phillips. So if you will come forward. I'll just ask that you speak into the microphone, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
My name is Tommy, and this is my mother, Miss Betty Phillips. And we have a property tax concern. My mother built her house in January of 1979, okay, at $39,400 in 1979. Okay, now at 2025, she get a special voucher that she's paid $40,000 a year of property taxes on her estate. Okay? Now, what's been happening with her, with my mother for the past 30 years plus, has been this. Okay, at $40,000 a year tax bracket, she's paying like $1,200 interest. Okay, y'all guys got a sheet that I printed out for you guys, and it shows from 97 up to 2025. Okay, but it don't say nothing from 79 up until that date. Okay, what happened? She got a letter said that she owed like $10,000, $12,000 in taxes. Okay, for her to owe that much in taxes, that means she's paying about $800 a year property taxes on a $40,000 piece of property. Okay, in some years on them statement you see that where that you guys charge her like $1,200 interest, then you charge her like another $800 property taxes. So for that year running, it's like $2,000. You have it in black and white. And so we went to Mr. Larry, explained this situation to him, and it didn't go nowhere with the paperwork then filed. So now what's happening is that we need to have the right sense of direction to go into the tax department, the word that she's paying the right amount of money for taxes. Okay, she vowed to pay $1,200 a year on her taxes. He said that wasn't enough for her back taxes. She's gonna pay $1,200 a year, but she only supposed to pay like $330 per year. So she's paying like 4 times amount a year every year. You see it in front of you, and you see it running consecutive. You know, you go from $78,000 for maybe like 10 years, then you drop down to $40,000 for 2 years, then you go back up another $78,000 for another 12 years. It's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the number is not right.
So, just to clarify, so you're disputing the property value?
No, I'm disputing the price that you're charging for the property taxes. You see it? And the interest on $40,000. It's pretty well she's paying 4 times as much as any other citizen in the county. And then you ask yourself a question. This is a question I asked myself. I see there was a mistake in an area on my mother's part, but is there mistakes in the area on everyone else's property taxes? I see her glitches. Do anyone else have any glitches in their property taxes? Because we have a problem with ours.
Okay, I follow what your dispute is now, and I can't answer that tonight. Obviously, we'd have to talk with our tax administrator to get an answer on
Yes, sir.
why. But
And I know Marina's getting all the notes, Miss Adams is, so what we'll do is get it to Larry tomorrow morning, and then what he can do is be here on the 17th of this month same time, same place,
Yes, sir.
and be prepared to answer that as some of the other questions the board had during the budget workshop.
Okay. So, thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
Oh, that was his sister.
Okay, that was all that had signed up to speak for the public address. So at this time, we will move on. To what? Yeah, to our manager's report. So, Mr. Manager, I'll give it back to you.
This balance and the interest should be here.
As I stated earlier during the budget presentation, item A under 8 is the department flex time, and as you'll recall at our last meeting, Ms. Jackson, who's here, and Mr. Small, who's here, they made a really good presentation that was very detailed. I have asked all our department heads, and I think most of them have complied and sent in a flex time schedule, some more lengthy than others. Some have indicated that they can't do flex time because they're a 24/7 operation, such as the water filtration plant. I understand that, but that's in your package. What I'm hoping you will do is take it, look it over, since it's very voluminous, and then be prepared to discuss it at your meeting on the 17th. And then if you decide to do whatever your decision at that time, as I'm sure Mr. Small and Ms. Jackson will be here. Ms. Jackson will bring her deputy with her, Miss Keisha, and they'll be prepared to answer questions, and I will too. And and if you've got any now, we can do that. But I would just suggest that you wait until that time, and then you can either make it effective July 1 of 25, or else modify it and make it effective at the same date. That makes sense to you?
Just for clarity, from my understanding, I think we've already voted for it to be effective July 1. It is a trial and error period, so the approval has already been given, motion made, accepted, voted upon, and then from there, I think we leave it out maybe like 6 months. I don't know what the definite time was at the time, but
6 months is
yeah, I don't think we have to vote on it again. I mean, to maybe overlook what their plan is, but it was supposed to give it like a trial and error. This is already concrete. This is going to happen type deal. Yeah.
You're correct. I misspoke. Well, I guess what I should have said is if the board wants to modify anything that was submitted, then you could do that and make it effective. And you may take it just like it is and run with it, which is okay because you've made that decision.
Well, I think, again, with that decision, it doesn't really leave any room for modifications. My motion was for it to be left up to each department head to create their flex schedule. So I don't think we have, I mean, based upon our vote, whatever they present, they have the opportunity to operate, and we just kind of follow suit with what the results are. That's, I think, where we are with it.
Okay.
If I can be corrected, if I'm wrong, y'all correct me.
Well, we do have the authority to revoke it, if so chooses.
Well, but I'm saying I think the agreement was in the motion was to, and I'm just repeating what we voted and what we agreed to do as a board. If we do that, we're going back on our word, and I want to make that clear. The motion was to accept what was presented, and I think it was on the premise of giving them up to 6 months or some, I don't know exactly the time frame. We can pull the minutes for that, but to allow each department head to modify their flex schedule, and we would just monitor it and see how well it done. That vote was it 4-3? I think possibly it was. Yeah, it was a 4-3 vote. So if we revoke that before allowing that to take place, we shouldn't have voted in the first place.
I have some concerns over voting for it in the first place. We didn't know what was presented.
Well, for clarity, you will want. I knew.
I did vote against it.
Yeah. So your vote was a no vote, but it wasn't enough no votes for this not to go through. So
I would hope our commissioners would not approve something unknowing what is going to be approved.
Well, we knew that the department heads had the opportunity to provide the scheduling for their department. That's why we call them department heads, directors, or whatever we want to call them, and they have that a responsibility, and that's what we voted on. If this does not work in that time frame that we agreed upon, then we revisit it and we do what we said. We make a decision to say no, modify, or however. But at this point, and this is just to make sure I have the proper understanding, each department head has been given the okay by the Board of Commissioners to utilize a flex schedule that each department head or director for that department creates.
Mr. Ellaby, I have no problem at all with the flex schedule, but I have a lot of citizens that have contacted me since our last meeting concerned about remote working. We supply office space for our employees, and citizens are saying we should use it.
I mean, you know, that's their right to be concerned. However, we as a board made a vote.
Well, we made a vote, but now we have more information.
Okay.
When we made that vote, we did not have the department flex time reports. That's included in our agenda packet.
Okay.
I think we gave them the leeway to go ahead and set up their schedules, and then we'd monitor it, and we asked, well,
Correct.
not us, but the county manager would monitor as time goes and
Right.
look at any changes or whatever might need to be made, or adjustments and that type of thing, and we do that, and then we would, if there's an issue with it, the time frame that I remember was like 6 months.
I just wanted to make sure. I think that's what I heard.
And you know, we make a decision. If it's working fine, good. But if there's a real issue with it, then we can decide if we need to cut it off or make a major adjustment to it or whatever. But and this, you know, these schedules that are in here, we can review them and look at them. I mean, if you got any comments, I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to look at it now and try to tell you tonight what I feel about it.
Right.
Because the department head has put it together, and this is what they're going with. You know, we can come back on the. Well, I won't be here on the 17th, I don't think, but. And look at it then, but that's where we are right now, based on the meeting where we approved it. It was ready to go.
Right, and that's the only thing I revisit is that it was a vote and 4-3, and so we just kind of go with that.
We voted on that proposal, right? And did point out last time, they, in their next steps, in their proposal, they have June 3rd, 2025, final draft approval and adoption. And then July 1st, 2025, effective date for implementation. So I was tracking they would come back with a final draft for approval and adoption.
Now, based upon my understanding, this is a conversation we've had as a board prior to this particular situation, is that things that is a matter of our county manager, we allow our county manager to do. I don't want to handle personnel. I was not elected to handle personnel. Okay, that's just me personally. I'm one person. I think that we have a county manager, we have HR, and based upon what was presented to us, and I could be corrected if I'm wrong, is that this was a matter of our county manager that kind of falls under HR to a certain extent, but it is a direct responsibility to the directors of each department. I do not know the scheduling of DSS. Okay, I do not know the scheduling of the sheriff department. I do not know the scheduling of EMS. I do not know the scheduling of the water department. I do not know the scheduling of any of our departments for that matter. And honestly, it's not my responsibility to be in that depth of it, right? That's why local governments have county managers who oversee human resource and people that work and those directors. Now, again, from my perspective, we agreed to allow flex scheduling. From that aspect, I was under the understanding that the final draft would be provided to our county manager and his approval. There's no need for us to approve it now. We have approved for it to exist. In its existence, he then will monitor it. In that trial period, he'll bring back to us whether there is a loss of productivity, if there is an increase in productivity, if there is a loss of efficiency, whatever, however we want to look at it, then we make a decision to say yay, nay, whether or not this go on any further. That, if I'm correct, because that draft would be provided to you. You would bring it and allow us to look at it and kind of look over it to know what to expect. But it's already been approved, if I'm correct.
Well, the different department head has provided their flex schedules because
I understand that.
it's like not one size fits all. It's like different ones will operate differently. Some of them have employees that want to continue. If they're 8:30 to 5, they want to work 8:30 to 5. They don't care about being, others have already started such that some of their employees want to work 8:30 to 5. Others want to come in at 7:30 and work to 5:30, 4 days, and another day they'll work 9 hours. So they'll get their 37 and a half or 40 hours in. So that's why I put that in there.
Well, my point is that it's not for me to approve it because it's already approved based upon what you recommended. What they recommended and you said you felt could possibly work. That has already been approved. We don't have to prove a draft, because the approval was they would have their draft for each department. I just want to clarify that this is not a matter for us to vote on anymore until that 6-month trial period.
Okay, I have concerns with the draft or the policy, the way it's reading now, but
With all departments or just one particular department?
anyone that's entertaining the idea of remote work. I'm not a fan of remote work. I agree. The flex time, you come into the office. If you want to come in early, you want to leave late, I'm fine with that. If you want to work your normal 8:30 to 5, I'm fine with that. I just have an issue with remote work. I've heard from the citizens in my district that they do not approve of that, and that's what I'm expressing my opinion here tonight. But
and we expressed that the night of the vote. It was just 3 people that said they had concerns, and 4 that was okay with it. So that's my point is, I understand you should be concerned about it for the next 6 months. That's that's nothing abnormal about that. For any of the 3 people that voted against it to be concerned for 6 months, but maybe your concerns can get some resolve.
They could be
that you could take back to some citizens and say, I know sometimes we look at it like people not going to be at work, so they're not working. I give people the benefit of doubt. That we could potentially have some responsible people that work for the county that say, I can still do my job, even in a remote location. I don't want to think the worst.
And I don't either.
And I've heard some citizens say, on both sides, and I've heard some say, they're working hard. It doesn't matter where they work, as long as they're working.
I give every citizen or employee the benefit of the doubt too. This was before your time, but I've been burnt. I know what happened under the watch of some department heads, and so I have concerns, and the citizens have legit concerns, because it cost the county, could have cost the county a lot of money had we not found it and attempted to correct it.
Right.
And that was before your time. I don't expect you to know, but I do have concerns about it, and so do the citizens.
But there's a way that you can track what they're doing. Miss Nia, can you get up and explain the way that the employees can be tracked, whether or not they're working at home or at the job? Miss Nia? Broadway, Miss Nia Broadway.
So for economic services, which is the F&S department, the Medicaid department, the SIP, daycare, Work First, we use a system called NC Fast. And in that system, there is a transaction there where we can put in the staff's name, the date, and it tells us everything they did in NC Fast that day. It'll tell me how long they were outside of NC Fast, how long they were in NC Fast. It was put in to help us track production of our staff. So if we have a staff at home, working from home, and we look and we see, they were on NC Fast 2 hours this day. They don't need to be working from home. They need to be working in the office. As managers, I hope that I'm trusted enough that I can manage people whether they're at home or in the office. We have the equipment, we have the software that we can manage people. We can measure what they're doing. It's not like we have paper folders anymore. We are in a web-based system.
That's right.
Yes, we are.
and it helps us to track the productivity of our staff.
Paperless.
Thank you for that explanation, Ms. Broadway. I will question, did we have web-based time off when we had an incident in the past 2 years that employees were receiving well over their allotted time off?
Well, that's totally different. That was not line staff. That was management. That was people in management like myself. The system did not take away. So if I put in sick or vacation, it did not deduct from my vacation balance or my sick balance. Me personally, I put it in. I don't track it. And so for management, not line staff, for management, they caught where the problem was going on. What time that I did not deduct from my bank, I gave it back. I didn't take it because I didn't know it wasn't coming out of my bank. But when they called it, they found it, I gave it back. And I'm going to say this. Most of mine roll because I'm at work all the time.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm not calling you out in particular. I want you to
but
know.
No,
I'm
that's
just
what
in general.
happened. That's
So-
what happened. We gave it back. We gave back when it was not intentional. I would not have let my staff, I have supervisors under me, I would not have let them use time that they did not have if I knowed it. I trusted a system.
And that's my point. You're trusting NC Fast, but could it fail us?
But the thing with NC Fast is, so I have leagues as well. I'm in NC Fast every day. Every day I'm in NC Fast. You probably hear staff say she's a production manager because I feel like if we're there, we need to be working. So in NC Fast, I'm there every day. I'm looking at what they're doing. And if there's a glitch, because I'm in there every day, I notice that. You know, I'm like, okay, well, it's not doing this today. Something's off. But 95% of the time, NC Fast is on point. And if it's off one way or the other, I would notice it. And again, if they're not being productive, they don't need to work from home.
Yes, ma'am. I would agree 100% with that. So
Thank you.
I just want to make sure someone is managing.
Just a quick question for you. What is the problem with working in the county provided offices?
See, it's not that there's a problem. I think we're trying to get a life-work balance for our staff. You know, gas is expensive. We have people driving from Rockingham here. It's just to give staff some incentive to look forward to work. I mean, we're not saying take people out of the building every day. That's not what we're saying. Maybe give them 2 days a week out of the building. The building that we're in, it's not in the best shape.
No.
We have mold in some places. We have critters running around. And it's not to say Mr. Wendell's not doing his job. It's just an old building, Mr. Gatewood. And we're not able, we went in and we did some renovations, but the building's so old that once you get this taken care of, then you have something else going on. And we have people that feel like because they're in there, it's making them sick. There's a lot of complaints from staff about the building that we're in. And as a staff, I would, we like to feel like that we're appreciated and we're cared for too. We're not asking for any money. We understand that there's no money. We get that. I understand that. But it won't cost a thing to send people home for 2 days. I think it would help with morale. I think it would help with, as a manager, that you trust me to do my job. I've been doing this 17 years, and I would not do anything that would hurt the county. I wouldn't work for a county that I would hurt. And so to trust us to do what we need to do to manage people, and if they're not, they come back in the building. The building is better than what it was, and we thank you for that. We're grateful for what's been done, but there's still some issues in the building. And again, we're trying to get a work-life balance for our staff. All around us, people are working remote. NC Fast is made where you can work anywhere. They made NC Fast where I can log in right now and pull up NC Fast. And I don't have to be sitting in my office to work. I could work on NC Fast from right here. Again, the building is not the best building. We're trying, it's not just that they shouldn't be in the building. We're just trying to get a work-life balance for staff. We're trying to keep the staff that we have. Everybody around us does some type of hybrid work. They may not be home Monday through Friday, but they get a couple of days during the week that they can work from home. So we're asking for a hybrid schedule, not a total remote schedule. And it's just to try to help staff. Me personally, I can't work remote, and I know that. I know that I can't do it. But we have people that can do it, and to give them that chance. And if we, and you know, you talk about, and I'm sorry I'm taking more than, you tell us there's issues with it, but nobody would tell us what the issues are so we can work on them. So if you tell me the issue is that you think people aren't working from home, let me know that, so whatever the issue is, I can work towards correcting it so you won't get the complaints from the citizens. But we just say, you just tell us, we don't agree with remote work. You don't tell us why. I mean, you don't have to tell us why, but if you tell us why, we can try to help eliminate some of the concerns of the citizens and the board.
I have a question before you, just a brief question. I'm under the impression, and I don't know this to be factual because I haven't done any research to do any comparisons, that Anson County doesn't always pay as high, or the compensation is not sometimes in the same ballpark as competing counties. Is there any truth to that?
It is.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It is.
Right.
For example, I am a income maintenance administrator 1. I can go to Union County. Okay. Take a demotion as a supervisor. Okay. And make $30,000 a year more
than what you make here.
Than what I make here.
And my reason for asking that question is part of my reasoning why I agree with it, which people that are employed and already accepting, you know, the challenge of lower wages is somewhat of a type of compensation that you may not have to spend any money to work today. You don't have to put any gas in your car. You may not even have to buy you any lunch nor breakfast. You know, breakfast first on the way to work, lunch or while you're out, or even if you have the option to take it. I'm just saying, I looked at it as a means of an additional compensation of comfortability. You know, still do your job. I'm trusting you're still going to work, but it still kind of levels it out to a certain extent, if that makes any sense of what I'm saying. And that's not one department. I just considered, you know, again, I don't know the details of the departments in general, how the schedule would be best modified for each one. My thought process is, I'm glad we have people that's willing to work in Anson County. You know, honestly.
And we have people that are dedicated to what they do. And like with anything, you don't have 100% on anything.
Right, right.
But we learn to work with that. And if you're not at the 100%, then you come back into the office.
Right.
You know, you can have people that's in the office every day and not working. But because we have NC Fast, I can track that. If they're in the office and they're not working, then they have to, you know, okay, I need to talk to you. You're not where you need to be, and the expectation is this. So we have expectations in the office. So we would have those same expectations of staff outside of the office. It's not, you know.
So could somebody be in their office and not working?
Yes.
I just wanted to ask. I just want.
Yeah, and that's not a DSS thing.
I just wanted to ask that question because for some odd reason we feel that just because somebody show up, they working.
And,
you know what I'm saying?
Again, we can track what we do. There's not too many departments that can say they can track what their staff is doing for 24, you know, for the 8 and a half, 8 hours, 24 hours. we have a tracking mechanism put in place by the state.
Yes, ma'am.
And they put it in place so they can check behind us. When we pull that money down, if we put on a day sheet that I spent 50 minutes in NC Fast, we have to prove it.
Right. Okay.
So it's it's the watchers watching the watchers. I'm being watched, they're being watched, and so it's measurements put in place to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Broadway, for that. Mr. Woodward?
We're at a point where, we've agreed to do something on a trial basis, actually what it boils down to. And it sounds like we're overly concerned about something. We don't even know what the outcome is going to be as far as what's going to happen. So let's give it a chance.
That's right.
We say we trust our workers, so let's put it in place and quit putting stuff out there. We don't even know what the answer is right now because we don't have a clue what's going to happen. Now, 3 months down the road after it's in place, or 6 months down the road, we'll know, and we can take that data and then decide what to do at that time. We can beat this thing to death the rest of the night, and we're not going to get any different than what we're saying now.
I agree.
So my line of thinking is we've already voted to do it, so let's move on.
That's right.
Okay. Any other discussion on the flex time?
No, the only one thing I'd say, I read through it. I appreciate the departments that utilized it to give better customer service to the public by being open earlier and being open later. I appreciate that from the departments that facilitated that to extend flex scheduling and giving it as a benefit to the citizens of Vance County as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to the inspection services agreement.
And I have Mr. Addison here tonight if you need for any deeper explanation, but as you know, our chief building inspector left end of May, and Mr. Addison has reached out to Union County, and they provided us an agreement, and he thinks it works, and I agree with him. So we'll use it, and if we need to, we'll use it as long as we need it, because he's recruiting, trying to get somebody in here now to be our next chief building inspector. But in the meantime, we need something of this order to make sure we can get permits issued on time, or else you and I both will hear about it.
Yes. Mr. Addison, I'm going to ask if you'll come up and explain, because I have the question. You've already answered it for me, but I want you to answer for the rest of the board. The cost associated with this contract.
Evening.
Good evening.
So right now, there's no set price because that's something we can't truly determine. It's billed on the basis of what we use from Union County. And so right now, it's set up where we're probably going to be calling them when we need level 2 and 3 inspections that current staff can't perform. So we'll be billed at whatever rate that inspector's salary is at. So it'd basically be a prorated. We cover their salary based on how much time they spend in Anson County. Now, we've already had discussions to set it up. Of course, we can't always dictate which inspector comes, but there will be priority given to routing us the cheapest inspector available.
But with that being said, on the level 2 and 3, do you have a rough amount of how much that's going to cost us?
Again, average is going to be around 50 to 60 an hour, but that's going to vary a little bit just given on who we get routed.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to thank you for clarifying that, because there is no cost in the. Yeah, all it states is that it would be billed at whatever their expense to us is, but that
Correct.
could be open-ended. So I just wanted you to clarify.
Correct,
that.
and the county manager and I had talked about that, and he's can give approval up to a certain amount, but we wanted to be extra sure to give protection to him and his contract assigning abilities. Let the board go ahead and approve it. That way, he's absolved of any issues with that.
Okay. Well, it's my opinion that we need to enter this contract because we don't need to stall any permitting for the county at this time. I know we have a couple of large projects going on that require level 3 inspection.
That's correct.
Right. Most definitely, Nick and I both have talked about it, and those projects, once they start, will have to have level 3 inspections.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. Any other questions on that agreement at this time?
I think one other thing, just something to throw out there as far as knowing what it's going to cost. And I don't know if we've got access. I can look at what their salary schedule is and know where their inspectors are. You can take that salary range and kind of estimate what it's going to cost.
That's how I had the dollar per hour that I got.
Okay.
I worked with them on that.
Yeah, good deal.
They just can't guarantee us what level
it's going to come.
It's going to come.
Right.
Here,
We
at
just
what
don't.
day.
You know, they might have one staff member who is fully certified at level 3 that makes 50 an hour. Might have another staff member with the exact same certifications that makes 45.
Right.
An
I
hour.
understand.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So at this time, I entertain a motion to approve the mutual aid agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Mims, second by Commissioner Woodburn. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes.
I have two other things kind of quickly.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Go ahead.
One is, and I discussed this earlier today with Commissioner Gatewood, but if you heard the town council meeting last night, there was a reference to Dwayne McCoy, who is our director of our IT services, and the town of Waitsboro does not have an IT director or an IT staff, and so they have approached him, and he has talked to me about it. If it's on his free time that he's not working for the county, if he could provide them with a certain level of IT services, they'll pay that freight. We won't, but he'll still do all of ours without any qualm. So I just wanted to let the board know, because I know we've got other employees that have second jobs, if you will, and as long as it doesn't interfere with the work they do for Anson County, then it's usually okay. But I just wanted to make the board aware of that, unless it's got some problems with it.
Does the board have a
No, I'm good as long as he's doing his job here.
I don't think it's a matter of hours.
I just know that we're not going to let them steal Dwayne, because he is a good IT person, really a good director. And the only other thing is, and this is probably something Commissioner Woodward's going to bring up for you, but tomorrow at 11 a.m. Across the street at the gazebo, there's going to be a peace pole planting, and I'll let Commissioner Woodward, if he or Mr. Chairman wants to say anything else about it.
Yes, this is something that the Waitsboro Rotary Club is doing. It's been in the works for several months now, and it's promoting world peace. And as I understand it, if nothing's changed, I think there's only 2 or 3 others in the whole United States. So we'll be in some good company there. But this is sponsored by the Waitsboro Rotary Club. This is a project that we've taken on.
I could be wrong. I think I saw one at Blowing Rock this weekend. So
yeah.
When I saw it, I looked and I was like, pretty sure that's exactly what's coming down. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
This is a pole it's being paid for in its entirety by the Rotary Club.
Rotary Club. Okay. All right, and that is tomorrow at 11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Right here across the street.
At the gazebo.
Yeah. All right. Anything else for the manager?
I'm good unless the board wants to ask any more questions.
Yeah. Hearing none, we'll move on to Chairman's report. I have presented a resolution in opposition to North Carolina House Bill 765. For those, I asked for you to kind of do a little bit of homework research on it. What House Bill 765 does is basically an act to reform local government development regulations in the state of North Carolina. There are some parts in that bill that will override our current local zoning ordinance, and I feel that would be detrimental to Anson County. We have an issue right now with a facility that is going through our zoning process, and our zoning was developed by a board on behalf of the citizens of Anson County who know and conversate with those citizens every day. Raleigh has no conversation every day with these citizens like we do. I don't think the decisions for our local zoning should be made in Raleigh. I think they should be made here in this county, and that goes along with the municipalities of each town. I've spoken with several mayors, and they are in favor of this resolution that opposes this bill. So I would like to present it for a vote by this commission that we oppose House Bill 765.
Make a motion to approve. It's very well put together.
I have a motion by Commissioner Woodburn, second by Commissioner Gatewood, Commissioner Little Reed. Any other discussion on House Bill 765?
We need to do away with it.
I do know there have been changes made to the original House bill that was presented. I'm still not in favor of that. So I'm like Commissioner Ellerby. I wish they would just do away with it altogether. But time will tell where that's at in legislation at this point. But any other discussion on this House bill?
You all can reach out to our state representative, Mr. Mark Brody. He is our state representative for Anson County. Those of you Wilsonians, reach out to State Representative Mr. Mark Brody. Express your disinterest in this House bill, please.
As well as Senator Dave Craven, because no bill will become a law unless it's got both sides. So,
right. Well, it's my understanding that Representative Brody is a co-sponsor.
He is a primary sponsor on it.
I intentionally said reach out to State Representative Mark Brody without filling in that information, but since it's out there, he sponsored this bill. That's why I said reach out to him personally, okay? Yeah.
And I do believe the mayors are meeting tonight. Like I said, I've had a conversation with them. They are interested in joining this resolution if we vote in favor of it. But this will be a county-wide opposition. So any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That is all I have for my report. We'll open the floor for commissioners. Concerns, comments?
I've already mentioned what I was going to mention. Wait, the peace poll for tomorrow.
Well, thank you for that. Any other?
I got one.
Yes, sir.
Lord, so I got a call today again about the one of the convenience sites down in White Store.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Can anybody fill us in on the steering committee meetings for the waste management?
I do not believe the steering committee is meeting currently due to lack of participation.
Right.
Yes, I have had some concerns brought to me on the convenience site as well, and they were forwarded to Mr. Tyler Fitzgerald.
So you've talked. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same issue, but I've had issues brought.
Okay, the issue that I got called about today down in White Store was basically signage out there. It's covered up. The entrance isn't very visible and things like that. I mean, if you've already reached out to Mr. Fitzgerald, we can reach out to him soon.
That is not the same issue that I addressed, but we will. I can, or somebody will mention that to him. Yes.
Yeah.
I had a concern from a citizen about out-of-county users using our convenience site. That convenience site is solely dedicated for Anson County residents, not intended to be used by out-of-county residents. So,
touching on that used to be a big issue down in Burnsville.
Mm-hmm.
What about Ansonville? Because I had a call about Ansonville. Are they deemed the same?
Same way. All of the convenience sites. That is part of the infamous
I was talking
contract with Waste Connections that they would provide those sites free of charge to the Anson County residents, not to any citizen outside of Anson County. It's only Anson County.
But I think there has to be some kind of way to enforce that, because I don't think when people pull up, I don't assume that they're checking IDs or anything like that.
And that responsibility falls
those
to Waste Management,
the ones
they're
working
contracted with another service, but it ultimately is Waste Management's responsibility. In other words, if they want to take the whole country's trash free of charge, that's on them. But they're the ones losing money if they're taking trash from other citizens outside of Anson County. So it's up to them to enforce their own policy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like those little smaller areas like Ansonville and Burnsville, they don't have scales. So, like if people brought some kind of trash there, they could just bring it if they're not IDing them.
They're supposed to ID. That's the contract company's responsibility to ID them and verify they are Anson County residents. So,
and that got handled more so in Burnsville a couple years ago, and not to get sidetracked with it, but yeah, that was an issue in Burnsville just because they were overflowing on Saturdays from out of county coming in and using that dump site. Now I'll say now they got a guy. They did have one. He's passed away now, but another one. I mean, they were getting on there. I mean, I'd been there multiple times and everything. They let me see your ID.
Yeah.
Some of them hunkered down on that, but yeah, back to the White Store, just visibility sign. The lady that called me was concerned And I was wonderful. I was glad to hear it. She said, I've had 3 new people move in here, and I've had to show them where the dump site is because it's kind of hidden.
Mm-hmm.
I was not excited about that, but I was like, 3 more people. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So,
But yeah.
okay. We will relay that information to Mr. Fitzgerald. Any other commissioner concerns or comments? All right. Hearing none. Oh, go ahead.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
I'm hoping that all of you wonderful citizens from the Red Hill Mount Vernon Church Road, you guys be a little lenient Thursday night with the planning board. They are volunteers and they appointed people, and don't give them too hard of a time on Thursday, because ultimately this thing has to come back to us. So y'all be kind, and honestly, to be truthful with you, it's probably not going to have that great of an impact for you to come storming here on Thursday evening. I just wanted to say that, because they don't have a decision in the matter. And I'm just saying that out of kindness for the planning board, if that helps.
I will mention to that, we are, for the citizens here and watching, we are trying to facilitate another location to hold that meeting. Obviously, the capacity of this building will not meet the crowd size that was at the community engagement meeting. So we are trying to facilitate that. We will have confirmation in the morning on that alternative site location. That will be posted on our county website, as well as posted here on this building. That is for the planning board meeting for Thursday night, which will be at 6 p.m. typically in this room, but we're trying to pin down an alternative site. So,
and then it'll come to us when?
I'll have an email sent once confirmation is to the commissioners.
Okay.
And like I said, we'll also post it on the county website and on the door downstairs.
They'll come to us for our, because I've had some calls about it. And I guess the other thing I mentioned too that I didn't when I was talking about, and I'm hoping that I can work it out to be here, but my wedding anniversary is coming up and I may not be here for the meeting on the 17th. My anniversary is on the 16th. And the way it's going right now, I won't be out of town. But
hey, I don't blame you.
Smarter than I am.
I don't blame you.
So I want to put that out there. If I'm missing on the 17th, I'm trying to stay home.
I understand. So
I won't even look for you. I'm okay with you, man. You go right ahead.
All right. Any other comments or concerns? All right, hearing none, we do have one item to discuss in closed sessions and closed session in reference to personnel items. So I will entertain a motion to enter into closed session for a short.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ellaby, second by Commissioner Mims. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right.
Closed session.
Have a motion by Commissioner Leary, second by Commissioner Mims to come out of closed session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, at this time, is there any other business to conduct?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Ellaby, second by Commissioner Little Reed to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
All right.